Brock Lesnar's WWE career up until 2004 was amazing. 2 whole years of carnage and chaos, and he didn't overstay his welcome at all. His New Japan run was a blink and you miss it type thing, then his UFC run cemented him as one of the company's biggest draws in history. Lesnar came in at the perfect time as fans were tuning in and they had a real interest in UFC in the mid-2000s, and Lesnar's signing added to that. He returns to WWE in 2012, and even though it was off to a rocky start, they rectified that issue by having him end the streak and going on a monstrous run. Lesnar's stock was probably the highest in the entire company. Then Goldberg dropped him in 1 minute and 26 seconds. This leads to the second story between the two, which was much better than the first. It brought closure to the situation and gave Brock Lesnar the Universal Championship for the first time. On the April 3rd, 2017 episode of Raw, Brock Lesnar came out to stand and let Paul Heyman talk. Heyman told the story about Goldberg and said that he's gone. And with that, Lesnar was looking for new challengers. Heyman teased Rollins and Lesnar, the Hardys against Brock Lesnar. Why? Because Lesnar wasn't one to hide from others. Most of all, though, they wanted Roman Reigns. The 22-2. But the fans wanted Finn Balor. They didn't want the Roman Reigns match. All of a sudden, Braun Strowman interrupted and he said that he'll have Brock's attention after he destroys Roman Reigns because he certainly has his eyes on the champion himself. It seemed like a fight was going to happen, but it wasn't to be. Lesnar's obviously a fighting champion, which meant he was going to be away for a while. He disappeared and the world title scene was mostly about the IC title. That was the world title on Raw, basically. After Payback, Kurt Angle booked a fatal 5-way match between Finn Balor, Samoa Joe, Bray Wyatt, Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins. Joe managed to win this one, and let's just say that the excitement behind this match was amazing. Samoa Joe was a wrecking crew upon his debut. His impact in the WWE is felt by everybody, and it really seemed like we were on the verge of something special with him. The next night on Raw, he came out and he straight up said that he doesn't fear Brock Lesnar. He was too envious to fear him. Samoa Joe wanted everything that Brock Lesnar had. The part-time schedule where Lesnar doesn't have to come out every week. He wanted to be feared by everyone in hell. Samoa Joe even wanted Paul Heyman to be his advocate. However, the most important thing he wanted was the Universal Championship. And there he was. Paul Heyman. He built up Lesnar before praising Samoa Joe, and Heyman believed that Joe enjoyed Brock being fearless of himself. His wish was for Brock Lesnar to face Finn Balor. Why? Because it's a box office draw. It's an amazing story, but Samoa Joe, he's the worst case scenario. Joe doesn't give a damn and would go to war with Brock Lesnar. He could try to sway his concerns, but Heyman was still worried. He said that even if he gets by Samoa Joe, Joe will have taken a piece of him. Heyman, though, felt that it was his job to make Brock Lesnar Samoa Joe's worst case scenario. He wished him luck, but Joe wasn't done. He told Heyman what he was going to do and did it. All to send a message to Brock Lesnar. We want Brock chants intensify, and Joe shouts, "So do I." Later that night, the Advocate received a phone call. He told the champion to instill the fear in Samoa Joe, appear on Raw, and show him what's up. Paul Heyman expressed disappointment in Joe's actions, but he was still a little scared of Samoa Joe. He's Samoan, but unlike the others, they don't want anything to do with him. Heyman mentioned what happened after he was locked in the coquina clutch and was a bit worried if it happened to Brock Lesnar. But then he realized something. Samoa Joe will never get the coquina clutch on Brock Lesnar. This was all he needed to hear. This man was looking for a fight and Joe wasn't backing down. He went straight after Lesnar and this thing was so damn intense. Kurt Angle sent in the security, but Lesnar dropped them, so now the Raw roster had to come out and separate them. Joe managed to catch Lesnar with a kick to the champion's face, but Brock refused to let him go unscathed. On this incident, Samoa Joe said that it didn't affect him whatsoever. Brock Lesnar's actions do not faze him one bit, and his strategy was simple. Put the coquina clutch on him and become the new Universal Champion. Paul Heyman, meanwhile, felt that Samoa Joe was intelligent and pressing Lesnar at a point where the locker room would come out, and then he could deliver another cheap shot. He also said that he's a Samoan dumbass for this and said that he lacked the intelligence like himself. He said that now's the time to start fearing Brock Lesnar. When Lesnar came out, Samoa Joe locked him in the coquina clutch. The champion was overwhelmed, but he was fighting like hell. And Heyman's claims were proven to be false as Lesnar faded so similarly to his Advocate. The thing that made Samoa Joe so cool was that he was a man of his word. He stood toe-to-toe with Brock Lesnar, he showed zero fear, and obliterated him at his own game. So if you're someone like me, you already like Samoa Joe. After this, he certainly increased a bit. Paul Heyman said that this was what he said previously. Samoans are trained to take the fight to your face. He knew that Brock Lesnar would have a problem on his hands if he found himself in the coquina clutch. It was a bit of a problem, but Heyman believed that his client would emerge victorious at the end. On the final Raw before Great Balls of Fire, Samoa Joe told everyone that he was tired of the questions and he made statements. So he asked Paul about the coquina clutch and Brock finally spoke. He said that he was the champ, Joe's not. On Sunday, he walks in as champ and walks out. Joe gets nothing. But he found it ironic Brock said this, seeing as he's gotten a piece of him in every confrontation. Brock said that he had it all wrong and Joe wanted to fight now. He said that he was kept away from Brock for his protection. The champion felt that he was trying to make a name for himself like he did in 2002. But Joe said that he was doing this for 20 years. Daniel Bryan, AJ Styles, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Brock Lesnar's next. The talk was nothing to Joe. He wanted to fight. Joe had the attitude, but the fight didn't happen. About their match, yeah, it was what everyone expected. Joe refused to let Paul Heyman announce Lesnar and immediately went after him. Joe sent him through the announce table and the fans were all all in. The challenge was one step ahead of the Beast in many ways, but for Brock Lesnar, this was one of his toughest challenges. He hit the Germans but found himself once again in the coquina clutch, but then from out of nowhere, he hit the F5 to retain the title. So much happened in such a short match. It made Samoa Joe look like the challenger in this title reign. He was throwing everything at Brock, and if it wasn't for a clutch moment from the champion, he would have won it. Good match. It's kind of unfortunate that Samoa Joe didn't win here, because if he did, a lot would have been different in WWE. With that said, the next night on Raw, the road to SummerSlam seemed a lot clearer. Roman Reigns handled Braun Strowman and took a jab at Brock Lesnar, saying he couldn't. Roman said that Angle owed him one and wanted a match with Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam. The champion, though, thought he didn't deserve anything. Samoa Joe felt that everyone was in a fantasy land and said that he should bring them back down to reality. Lesnar said that in reality, he dropped them last night. Joe said that Lesnar didn't beat him, he escaped them, and he told him that Heyman knows that he's the one. Brock looked sideways and he tells him to look straight to his face, and they were all intense. Roman made a joke out of it, so Joe mentioned how he got beaten down by Braun Strowman. Then Roman's like, oh, why don't you go find Braun Strowman for me? Because Roman stood tall by the end of the night. Since these two are all intense, Kurt Angle booked the #1 contenders match. Winner goes on to SummerSlam. Braun Strowman, though, was a hater and dropped both men. He felt that he deserved the title shot because unlike Roman and Samoa Joe, he won at Great Balls of Fire. Strowman showed no fear and promised to break Lesnar in half at SummerSlam. Samoa Joe heard enough and came out looking like he wanted to fight, and he gave Strowman a promo about who he is and said that he didn't fear him. In his eyes, he felt that Braun and Roman still had to settle things. He needs the Beast, and there's Roman Reigns. He thought it was funny that Samoa Joe claims he did something in Braun. He just got here. Unlike them, he's won the WWE Championship, the Royal Rumble main evented 3 WrestleManias. Kurt Angle at this point thought screw it, and he made Brock Lesnar face Samoa Joe, Roman Reigns, and Braun Strowman in a fatal 4-way match. Joe tried complaining about this, but Angle wasn't having it. Strowman said that he didn't care if it's a fatal 4-way, and Roman told him to shut up before starting a brawl. It got so chaotic that the locker room had to come in and separate them. Then from out of nowhere, Roman hissed a spear, and in light of this, Brock Lesnar made an unexpected appearance the following week. Paul Heyman believed Kurt Angle was out to get him. Why put these 3 in a match with Brock Lesnar? Heyman even claimed that Angle wanted Samoa Joe to be the new champion. To top it all off, he wants SummerSlam to be called Brock Lesnar loses the title, and if it does happen, he'll leave WWE. But the reasons why he was saying this was because of how confident Brock was. Kurt Angle, feeling he should make things interesting, gave The Miz an important guest on Miz TV. Brock Lesnar. The Intercontinental Champion did not hold back and said that Lesnar's losing the title. He even said that he'd bet on any of the 3 guys over the champion. Miz said that it will be good riddance when he's gone. Once Heyman grabbed the mic, he asked Miz if he and his wife roleplay, and he said that The Miz was Roman Reigns and the other 2 were Braun Strowman and Samoa Joe. And Lesnar demonstrated what happens at Suplex City. Paul Heyman continued talking about how WWE and Kurt Angle didn't want to see him entertain the thought of leaving and considering other plans, and that's why he's facing 3 other men. Anybody in that match can escape with the title, and Heyman hated this. Samoa Joe wants to win the title so he can be brought back into his tribe. Braun Strowman has all the tools to win the championship, but at SummerSlam, Beast slays Monster. Roman Reigns, you say this is your yard? Reigns do. At SummerSlam, one of 2 things happen. WWE's conspiracy works and they rip the title off Brock Lesnar, which means he leaves, or Brock Lesnar beats one of the 3 men. Of course, this wasn't just going to end without a fight. Samoa Joe told Brock that he's coming to rip the title off of him when he puts him to sleep. He trashed Braun Strowman, saying he's just a man, and then the big dog came out. He speared Joe, and Strowman dropped him with a power slam, and it was going to be the confrontation that everyone was waiting for. A bunch of security separated them before starting the fight, but this didn't work. The entire roster tried to put a stop to this. The hype for this match was high. They really knew how to draw you in. 4 of the most intense wrestlers in WWE. They're big, they're strong, they're aggressive, and they're hungry for gold. I don't think we realized the magnitude of how big, and I want to say surprisingly good because it was expected, but just how outstanding this match was. Brock Lesnar was in a situation we rarely see. He's the underdog. Strowman overwhelmed the champion like nobody else. Well, maybe Goldberg, but Strowman was manhandling him. Everyone was throwing each other around, spearing one another into the barricade, and then from out of nowhere, Braun Strowman hit the running power slam on Lesnar through the table twice. Bro was really Brock Lesnar's biggest hater. When you see a situation like this, you think, new champion. The other men have a match, it's intense, dramatic, but then an injured Brock Lesnar comes in, and at this point, he's unlocked. He was hurt and beaten, but refused to let go of the title. The champion had to fight 3 times harder just to keep himself in the match, let alone winning. He was taking spears, almost getting locked in the coquina clutch. He was hitting F5s, but others were breaking the fall, but he fought through and dropped Roman with the F5 to retain the title. It's shocking that he pinned Roman for it, but regardless, this was a superb match. It was physical, dramatic, and you were left with the feeling of, damn, Braun could win the title, Joe could win the title, Roman could win the title, and they told an amazing story with Lesnar being on the verge of losing the title, fight with all his will to keep it. The next night on Raw, the Beast Brock Lesnar was in an exciting mood. Heyman was like, I told you so, but also acknowledged how Lesnar was taken out on a stretcher. He called the 3 title contenders pretenders, and he also said that the others would have complained about losing, whereas Lesnar refused medical attention and walked back down to the ring and won the match. He also pinned Roman Reigns. If there's beatings to be done, Brock Lesnar will, and nobody will conquer him. Then Braun Strowman came out and brawled. Strowman shut up Heyman and dropped him with a power slam, which led to Heyman once again complaining about this the following week. He wanted to sing Braun Strowman's praises, and he mentioned how he dominated Lesnar and said that while he doesn't believe in monsters, Braun Strowman is one. So he laid out the challenge for No Mercy at the Staples Center in Los Angeles. Heyman said that it was unnecessary to attack him because Brock Lesnar wasn't going to back down. He had enough and told Strowman straight up, "Suplex City, bitch." Heyman asked Strowman if he's better than Brock Lesnar because you can't just win the title, you have to rip it away. By the looks of it, Brock was ready for the match. He then asked if Strowman was ready, and he definitely was. The champion of course brought it, but Strowman got up like nothing happened. Crowd was all in and he dropped the champion once again and held the title above him. On the final Raw before No Mercy, both men spoke via satellite. Strowman didn't want to explain how confident he was, and he said that he was the only man capable of putting Brock Lesnar down for good. You know what Heyman says, but Brock, he said Suplex City. No Mercy looked like Braun Strowman's time. He had Brock Lesnar on multiple occasions, and add to that, he was over with the crowd. Strowman was a surprisingly popular wrestler of 2017. He was tall, imposing, and seemed like a future world champion. These guys wrestled stiff. Strowman had the edge initially, but all it took was one F5 from Brock Lesnar to retain the title. This thing was rough, aggressive, and it felt like a war, but for Strowman, this was as good as it was gonna get. It was his time, his moment, but WWE didn't see it that way. With Survivor Series on the horizon, it meant everyone on Raw was loyal to the show, and on SmackDown, Jinder Mahal felt high. Why? Because this man wanted to challenge Brock Lesnar to a match at Survivor Series. Lesnar accepted it, and I don't really remember exactly how, but apparently John Cena was supposed to be the special referee. He was a free agent at the time and was slowing down his full-time run. Also, I thought we had an interaction between Brock and Jinder. That was actually in 2018. But in a very surprising turn of events, AJ Styles won the WWE Championship. Why? According to Dave Meltzer on Twitter, Brock Lesnar did not want to work with Jinder Mahal. Road Dogg also confirmed this as well, but when you're somebody like me seeing, oh, Brock Lesnar versus Jinder Mahal are facing off, but then you see AJ Styles and it's like, damn, this is gonna be good. It's already crazy that AJ Styles won the WWE Championship. Now he won it for a second time in London, which was the first title change outside of North America and who knows long, and now the face of TNA was gonna face Brock Lesnar. This match sounded impossible back in 2010, let alone 2015. As expected, this was a Paul Heyman promo. He had the utmost respect for AJ Styles, but said that speed kills. That said, he called AJ Styles the ideal opponent for Brock Lesnar, but he has to be the ultimate underdog because this good old boy from Georgia is going to step in the ring with a bulldog-eating carnivore. He called AJ Styles a Rocky movie coming to life, but then he said that this ain't no Rocky movie. You can't survive Suplex City. You can't survive the onslaught of the beast. Okay. The match at Survivor Series in Houston was outstanding. In front of the Toyota Center and Travis Scott, AJ Styles and Brock Lesnar constructed one of the most amazing stories of 2017. Paul Heyman made an emphasis out of Lesnar fighting out of Suplex City, and this was in contrast to AJ Styles' wrestling style. Lesnar, as Booker T said, was looking for meat. He obliterated and victimized AJ Styles, who was clearly unaware of the situation he was in. The Phenomenal One's opening was quickly closed by the Beast, and Styles was scratching and clawing his way, but all it took for Lesnar was one German suplex. His opening came when he pushed Brock into the steel steps and Styles was putting in the work, but Lesnar just slammed him on the mat repeatedly. Then from out of nowhere, AJ hit the phenomenal forearm. The fans believed, but Brock Lesnar kicked out. So he did it again, but this time, Lesnar caught him and hit the F5 to retain the title. Incredible match, probably the best match in the entire title reign. Brock Lesnar sold his ass off to make AJ Styles look phenomenal. He obviously did a bit more in the Daniel Bryan match, but he still did a lot here. AJ Styles was very close. He was nearly going to topple the Universal Champion, but one moment of error, a lapse of judgment, cost him. An incredible display from both men. These two are the masters of their wrestling styles. AJ is a land and air threat with a pitbull mentality, and Brock's just a destroyer. Awesome match. With the Royal Rumble on the horizon, Brock Lesnar's opponent or opponents at the Royal Rumble seemed quite obvious. Kane and Braun Strowman. Why Kane in the year of 2017 is having a big match with Brock Lesnar, I don't know, but they were pushing him hard. He beat Finn Balor clean, he beat Seth Rollins, and Braun Strowman failed to beat him. Lesnar, after hearing this, F5'd Kane and stood tall. Kane felt that he should take out Lesnar, but he needed some help. Strowman, though, wasn't about it and wanted to do things on his own terms. Once again, Paul Heyman felt that WWE is trying to stack the deck against him. Why else would he have to defend his championship against challengers? He said that the only way someone wins is if they pin the other, not Brock Lesnar. Heyman mocked the odds thing where the commentary says he has a 66% chance of losing, and he said that they could line up Braun Strowman, he'll beat him. Kane, he'll beat him. Hell, all 30 participants of the Royal Rumble, and Brock Lesnar will eat through each and every one of them. He said that Kane's not the devil's favorite, it's Brock Lesnar. Then all of a sudden, Kane came out. He dropped Lesnar with a chokeslam and took offense to Paul Heyman's statement. But Lesnar got up like that and a brawl ensued. Now, you guys know this. Brock Lesnar lives for times like these. Paul Heyman said that the triple threat concept sucks and mentioned how Lesnar took the chokeslam and it didn't affect him. Kane decided to go for it again, and this time Strowman was on top. Why? Because he dropped a part of the set on them. As a result of this, Kurt Angle fired Braun Strowman. So what did he do? He caused so much chaos. He flipped a truck, attacked others, and Kurt Angle had no other choice but to bring him back. Even then, he threw Michael Cole off the stage. On the final Raw before the Royal Rumble, these three men went face to face to face. In front of the roster and some Hall of Famers, Lesnar came in and went all out. Of course, because Strowman was built different, he sent him through the announce table to stand tall. As expected, this match was intense. Strowman overwhelmed Lesnar and Kane, and he was a one-man wrecking crew. Lesnar had a moment where he brought Strowman to Suplex City, but he was thrown through a table. This didn't stop him though, and the champion sent the monster among men through the announce table. He followed up with Kane and takes advantage and hits the F5 to retain the title. Okay. This match is famous for the moment where Strowman kneed Brock, leading to him delivering some actual shots. He stiffed the hell out of him and Lesnar shut him down. So what did Braun Strowman think of this? We laughed about it afterwards. It is what it is. We got to the back and I said, hey, my bad. He said the same thing and we went about our business. We're both grown-ups. We both knew what we were getting into. And at the end of the day, we're both very dominant males and neither of us wanted to give it an inch. So in the end, we took an inch from each other. Working with Brock, I go in with the mentality that it's a real fight. You have to. I remember Royal Rumble a couple of years ago. I got a little ants in my pants. So did he, and we threw some heavy hitters at each other and carried on from there. Let's face it, Brock's one of the baddest human beings on the planet, and I enjoy it. I like the physical aspect of it. I didn't get into this thinking it was water polo or tennis or anything like that. I knew this was a full contact sport. When you're in the ring with Brock Lesnar, it is full contact. Ask anybody that's worked with him. Brock brings a big fight, and that's why people pay money to see him. Okay, good match. It wasn't out of this world, but it's better than I remember it being. It was chaotic and exciting, but the result was out of question. Roman Reigns managed to win the Elimination Chamber match to punch his ticket to WrestleMania. This made sense. The only major challengers on Raw that Brock Lesnar never faced were Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, and Roman Reigns. The latter was clearly being warmed up for WrestleMania. Seth Rollins was clearly in a different direction. He was busy with Jason Jordan and rumored to have a match with Dean Ambrose at WrestleMania. That of course led to the IC title situation. Finn Balor was pegged to face Lesnar at the 2018 Royal Rumble, but it was scrapped. Roman Reigns up to this point had beaten The Undertaker at WrestleMania. He ended his career and it was a trajectory that would culminate in the sequel to WrestleMania 34. He was the guy. Everyone and their mom knew this from around SummerSlam time, and it was clear because Brock Lesnar hit one F5 on everybody retaining the title. Do you seriously think The Miz, Seth Rollins, or Finn Balor would be the one to kick out of it? Everything about the Universal Championship scene since WrestleMania 33 was building up to the Roman Reigns match. He wasn't near the title scene. Okay, with that said, the first feud between these two was all about the title and the fight. Here, it was a bit about the title, but it was more about something else. The title was in Roman's eyes held hostage. On the February 26, 2018 episode of Raw, Roman Reigns addressed his victory at Elimination Chamber. The big dog said that he was a man of his word before quickly firing shots. He said that Brock Lesnar was not here tonight, and this would be fine and all, it's expected, but he was advertised for the show. Roman also held resentment at Brock for being in Vegas the previous night, the same place Elimination Chamber was held, but he was out there taking pictures with Dana White. Roman trashed Brock and said that him and the guys go out every week. Big city, small city, we're there, but Brock's picky and choosy behind his contract. Roman said that they're gonna say it's business, but he was born in this business. His bloodline was in this business. Roman showed no respect to Brock Lesnar and said that he didn't fear the bitch. Okay. Paul Heyman the following week spoke on behalf of Brock Lesnar and had a very intense attitude. What Roman said clearly offended him and his client. He laid down the Universal Championship and said that Brock Lesnar allowed him to. He claimed that when Lesnar beats Roman at WrestleMania, and if he defends the title at SummerSlam, and if Brock Lesnar lets him, he'll lay this title down next to the UFC heavyweight title. Then Heyman mentioned Roman's biggest victory of his career, that being his victory against The Undertaker at WrestleMania, and he didn't diminish this victory at all, saying even though he wrestled one time that year, he's The Undertaker 365 days a year. How does this relate to Brock Lesnar? Well, similar to The Undertaker, Brock Lesnar is Brock Lesnar 365 days a year, and he's not taking that title away. He made an Afon Sika reference tied into the WrestleMania match and said that he should seek a different title to go after when he loses. Then he mentioned how Roman called Brock Lesnar a female dog and called the Universal title Brock Lesnar's female dog. It belongs to him, and Roman Reigns is eyeballing his bitch. If he's gonna win, he's gonna have to take it off of Brock Lesnar's hands. And this is a man that always wants to be number one. He showed great respect to the title, saying it's a declaration of being number one. It's not how bad you want the title, it's how bad the title wants you. If he wants to be the champion so bad, he can't go home the day before WrestleMania to his father after hearing bad news. You have to wrestle in the main event, and then show off the title the night after WrestleMania. If you're not needed on SmackDown, then you can go to your family. The title needs you more. He promised to bring Brock Lesnar to Raw next week, and then he'll deal with things. Then Roman Reigns came on and once again called Brock a bitch for not showing up. The fans just want the champion to show up to work. Scratch that, they want Brock to be here. He confirmed that he'll be on Raw and said that Brock could say whatever he wants, but just to make sure he's dressed for a fight. So what happened? Roman the following week reiterated his statements. Brock Lesnar doesn't have any respect for the fans, and he admitted that Brock Lesnar didn't show up tonight and asked Kurt Angle if there's going to be a penalty for this. He knew the answer. It was no. Why? Because Brock Lesnar was, he was privileged. Roman said that Vince was responsible for this, and man, Kurt Angle was so disrespected during this run. Everyone would come and yelling at him, and he'd do nothing about it. He'd just stare at them. Roman refused to be disrespected. He called out the boss on TV, and he quickly went to commercial. Mr. McMahon said that Brock Lesnar isn't his boy, he's his own man. He claimed that he wasn't trying to disrespect Roman and told him to know his role and shut his mouth. McMahon also acknowledged that Brock has special privileges and assured everyone that Brock Lesnar will be here next week. He also temporarily suspended Roman Reigns, and the fans were happy about that. Did Brock Lesnar appear the following week? Well, not yet. Kurt Angle announced that he will make it to the show, though. The suspended Roman Reigns, upon hearing this, came out. He didn't care that he was suspended and once again trashed Brock, saying, "Somebody has to be here representing the main event of WrestleMania." Reigns was visibly upset over being suspended for basically telling the truth. Roman refused to leave until he makes a moment in Dallas, Texas. How would that be? Facing Brock Lesnar tonight. The U.S. Marshals were here and Roman caused them to bring out absolute force. He knocked them down, but all of a sudden, Brock Lesnar was here and the man was defenseless, so for the champion, it was an easy fight. This relentless attack went on and on and on and on, and there was an emphasis placed on Brock Lesnar being a coward by the commentary. The following week, Paul Heyman insulted Roman's manhood and took a jab at him being advertised for tonight, despite being unavailable. He was really pressing him, but little did Paul Heyman know. The reinstated Roman Reigns was here. This time it wasn't handcuffed, but Brock wasn't scared. He was beaten, victimized, and conquered, and to top it all off, Brock Lesnar hit the F5 on top of the steps. On the final Raw before WrestleMania, the Beast and the Big Dog went one-on-one for the final time ahead of their clash at the Show of Shows. Angle knew that some stuff was going down between Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar, but the champion ignored his warnings. So he brought out the roster to watch on and prevent Roman Reigns from doing something. Paul Heyman saw this and undermined Angle, and he did the usual promo. Then he began impressing the locker room, saying none of them could hold his jock, let alone take his title. And Heyman started talking about how he has to tell his family that he got conquered by Brock Lesnar. Roman Reigns promised to hear out Paul Heyman, but he had enough. The Raw roster didn't want to let him through, so Roman asked if they were going to protect that part-time bastard. They cleared way, and a fight was going to happen. Brock walked away for a moment because he brought in a steel chair. Roman went in for 3 Superman punches, and Lesnar was dazed. So he hit a 4th, and it was clear that Roman had found his momentum, but the champion was still getting up. So he hit a 5th one before raising the title atop a falling champion. Just as he looks in another direction, Brock Lesnar hits the F5. So there's the build. Brock Lesnar's held the gold for 371 days. In that time, he reigned atop the WWE in very different fashion compared to others. He was not participating in the shows unless it appealed to him. Brock Lesnar felt the fans and others were worthy of nothing more than contempt. They cheer him, he doesn't really care. His privileged contract greatly angered the roster and mostly Roman Reigns. WrestleMania for him wasn't just about righting WrestleMania 31's wrong, it was also about setting free the ultimate prize of Monday nights from the part-timer Brock Lesnar. Much better build than the WrestleMania 31 match. Roman here is much bigger, he had a different aura about him, and no doubt about it, he belonged. The problem though is that WWE was stopping at nothing to put him in such a position. But by the looks of it, it was going to be his time. Brock Lesnar's contract was expiring and rumors were heavy on a UFC return, which would see Brock Lesnar possibly return to the octagon to face somebody such as Daniel Cormier. So a Roman Reigns win was all but confirmed. Early on, the Big Dog overwhelmed Lesnar with a plethora of Superman punches. The champion was dazed and totally out of his element, but the fans didn't want to give this a chance, chanting CM Punk. Lesnar meanwhile found form. Roman was now the one who seemed defenseless, and he had his moments such as the Superman punch and the spear, but a knee to the face ended this. The first F5 was kicked out of and nobody gave a damn. The first F5 kick out since WrestleMania 33, yet they didn't care about it. The second F5 kicked out of. Fans are booing. Third F5 kicked out. Fans don't really care. And the fourth F5 was through the announce table. The fifth was once again kicked out of. Fans are booing. This is awful chant as Lesnar's laying in the shots, turning Roman's face into a bloody heap. He's busted open. And bro, they even brought out blood, but the fans are booing. Roman suddenly hits 2 spears. As he's going for the third one, Brock Lesnar catches him and hits another F5 to retain the title. What the hell? This was stunning. It ain't no WrestleMania 30 streak ending stunning, but it still was shocking. Roman Reigns, they put everything behind this guy for 3 years. This match was building to that very moment where he would slay the Beast and capture the title in front of a sold-out stadium at WrestleMania, and that moment of coronation never happened. What did I think of the match? This is my first time watching it since the event. It was bad. Not because of the performance. Lesnar and Roman did their job. They saw the other guys' offense, this and that, but the problem came down to the booking of the match. It was just finishers, not a build or culmination with the finisher spams. If you're going to have Roman take all of that and lose, it's pointless. Especially after the moment where he bled and had so much adrenaline. That moment itself was so damn good, and it should have ended with him winning the title. Fans were going to boo. They already hated the match. They already hated Roman Reigns, but it was going to be an ending that fit the match itself. Another thing to mention is that the crowd wasn't going to give this match a chance. Lesnar and Roman, when the bell rang, were bombarded with CM Punk chants and boos, so it would have been hard to win them anyways. But the match is just as I remembered it. A match that literally happened and accomplished nothing for nobody. Brock didn't gain anything from beating Roman, and Roman losing to him was just plain dumb. Especially when the story was about winning the title back for Raw. Which leads me to the next point. If everyone and their mom expected Roman to win, the build was made for him to win, why did they change it and go with a surprise ending? Because there's not an actual reported reason, but the belief at the time was that Roman was going to win the title at the greatest Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia. Why? Because the fans in New Orleans, in the US, were going to boo him. The Saudi Arabia fans, they're probably going to like Roman Reigns. They're going to applaud him when he wins. That's basically what everyone thought. Brock Lesnar extended his contract with WWE around this time. That said, he was upset over the results of the match and threw the title at Vince. So now it's on to the greatest Royal Rumble. Brock Lesnar returned on the April 23, 2018 episode of Raw to confront Roman Reigns. Paul Heyman said that Brock Lesnar doesn't gloat, he gloats. Brock Lesnar's the one that conquers, but none of this means anything to him. Heyman mentioned the contract extension and the substantial raise that was earned by Brock. He was also eager to get Roman Reigns in a fight, because even though he beat Roman, he was left breathing after their match, so he wanted to end it. Then he interrupted. Roman said that he doesn't know how, but he's coming back with the title. So what about this match? It wasn't that good. German suplex from Brock Lesnar. He had the F5 preferred to continue the attack on Roman Reigns. The second one wasn't to be, and Roman hit 3 Superman punches before running to the F5, which was countered, and at this point, the big dog had control. He hits the spear, tries to escape, but Paul Heyman slams the door in his face. At this point, the Beast hit the F5, which was once again kicked out of, and Reigns hits the 4th spear, which wasn't enough. It looked like Roman was about to win the title, but then he speared Brock through the cage, and he retained. Why? Well, let's just say this was rigged, because basically, Roman literally won it. But they didn't want to say it because that wasn't part of the plan. He literally landed first ahead of Brock Lesnar, which meant he should have been the new champion. But that wasn't to be. I don't really got much to say about it. It's not that good. I've seen better from these two. This match just wasn't that. It wasn't that interesting, honestly. The spot itself, the spear was very, very cool. But whenever I think of this event, I think of other stuff. I think of the main event where Titus fell, where Braun Strowman won the whole thing. That's what I think of. Fast forward to Extreme Rules, almost 3 months later. Kurt Angle was interested in bringing Brock Lesnar in to defend the title. He wasn't interested, and he refused to face anyone, and Angle had enough, especially after seeing Lesnar face off with Daniel Cormier in the UFC. He told him that he better come to terms or else he'll strip him of the title. The next night on Raw, Kurt Angle came out and stripped Brock Lesnar of the Universal Championship. Just as he's announcing this, Paul Heyman came out. He did the whole announcement. Angle told him to shut up and bring on Brock Lesnar. Otherwise, he's wasting his time. Heyman informed Angle that he's not here, and he was still going to strip him of the title. So the Advocate had to convince him. He assured Kurt Angle that Brock cared about the Universal Championship. He loves being in WWE, but Brock wanted to challenge for the UFC Heavyweight Championship with the Universal Championship on his waist. Angle had enough and told Heyman that Brock Lesnar is defending the Universal Championship at SummerSlam, or he's no longer champion. With his back against the wall, he assured Angle that he'll defend the title at SummerSlam. So who was going to challenge for the title? Good one, Roman Reigns. Once again, Roman Reigns showed no respect for Brock Lesnar. Heyman did all the talk and promised that after Brock goes through Roman, he's going to the UFC to become a double champion. Roman didn't care about any of this and told him to bring Brock out. Heyman said that Brock was here, but said that he'll come out if he feels like it. Roman Reigns told him that when he goes back to the UFC, he's going back as Roman Reigns' bitch. Kurt Angle, though, wasn't happy about Heyman's comments and told him that if Brock doesn't go out to the ring, he's fired. The Advocate was certainly feeling the pressure and tried to convince Brock to go out there. He mentioned the financial possibilities, but Brock couldn't give a damn. He wasn't watching the show, he'd rather be home, and he was very annoyed by Heyman. Roman was asked to leave the building by Stephanie McMahon, as Lesnar was scheduled to appear on the show. Paul Heyman was still pressing him on this matter, and Brock was like, "Did I get paid?" Heyman finally admitted why he was annoying him, and it was because he was getting fired. Lesnar grabbed him and said that they're not friends, and he better do his job. The fans knew that Paul Heyman was gone, his man wasn't going to come out and do him a favor, and Angle went off on him and his client, and trashed Brock for half-assing it. Angle even went as far as to call him the worst Universal Champion of all time, and the fans chanted yes. Heyman admitted that he tried to make him into a WWE champion, but Lesnar barely tolerates him. He tried to mold him in Kurt Angle's image, but it didn't work. Angle didn't believe any of this, and he tried to play the role of the middleman, telling Angle he doesn't care. He doesn't respect Angle. He doesn't respect any of the fans. He's obviously referring to Brock Lesnar. Angle told him that his contract has been terminated, and there he was. Heyman breathed a sigh of relief as his client walked down to the ring. Brock asked Angle if he has a problem with him, and he asked Corbin, and from out of nowhere, he hit the F5. Heyman's all happy, but then Brock grabbed him and threatened him. Now, Roman Reigns was in the background. He wasn't really that much of a big deal till the final Raw before the event. The big dog promised to send him so far down the UFC, he'll be in Dana White's ass. Paul Heyman, on the other hand, was emotional about his relationship with Brock Lesnar. He wasn't on the best terms with him, and even went as far as to tell Roman Reigns that if he was in his corner, he'd walk into SummerSlam knowing he'd be the Universal Champion. The fans wanted it, but Roman did it. He was doing the most to get on Roman's side, but he called him a drowning shark. Heyman said that he was drowning in knowledge from Roman's father. He was begging him for an answer and told him to say it at SummerSlam when all of a sudden he blinded Reigns just in time for Brock Lesnar. This guy's like, F this, I'm out of here. So this was a setup. Okay, surely SummerSlam has to be it, right? Brock Lesnar up to this point held the championship for 503 days. I would give a description of the build, but it was the same as WrestleMania 34. Paul Heyman's introduction of Brock Lesnar here had to be his most intense. He was shouting, defending repeatedly. Right before the match began, Braun Strowman came out with a briefcase. The fans were all in, and Strowman refused to be a coward and cash in behind his opponent's back. So he was doing it face to face. Strowman promised to cash in after the match, and Roman Reigns took advantage of Lesnar and hit 3 Superman punches. The spear was countered into the guillotine. Both men were already exhausted, all while Strowman's watching. Roman takes a visit to Suplex City, and you all suck chants intensify. F5 is countered and leads to a suicide dive from Roman, who drops Strowman. Rock takes advantage of this and F5 Strowman before punking him out and throwing that briefcase so far away. Rock enters the ring and boom! Roman hits the spear. 1, 2, 3. New champion. Finally, they actually had Roman beat him for the first time, I believe. This was the first time Brock actually lost to Roman Reigns, and this was after like 5 or 6 matches. I don't even remember how many of them there was. But it finally happened, and Brock Lesnar's run ended. Did I like this match? I kind of like this one more than the others. There was that element, Braun Strowman will cash in, but it was just a tactic so the fans wouldn't turn on the match because, Brock, Roman, they're not exactly loved. And Brock, who was loved initially, was now hated because of the whole storyline where he wanted to go to the UFC, this and that. But I kind of like this one. It's not good or anything like that, but I was interested in it. So now Roman Reigns is Universal Champion. Okay, Brock Lesnar's run was long as hell. On paper, this was good as hell. Why? He had great matches with Samoa Joe, Braun Strowman, Roman Reigns, AJ Styles. But man, it was really hard to watch when it happened. Because the thing is, when you have a champion, you expect him to appear on the shows, this and that. Brock Lesnar almost never appeared. There were some stretches where he wasn't even around. After WrestleMania 33, he cut that promo, basically disappeared for like 2 months. After that, in SummerSlam and No Mercy, he disappeared once again for a month, before disappearing again after WrestleMania 34 and the Greatest Royal Rumble. It was very hard to watch Raw at the time because they're like, oh, the Intercontinental Championship is important, which it was, but we wanted to see the big thing. We wanted to see the Universal Championship defended so often. And this was a problem at the time because Brock Lesnar was holding the title hostage. All while guys like Finn Balor, Seth Rollins, even Roman Reigns, as despised, as hated, as disliked as he was at the time, he could have challenged for the title at the time as well. But the first half of this run was pretty damn good. If we look at it from the story and match quality, we're not going to look at the whole long stretches where Lesnar didn't appear. But the matches were good. Samoa Joe, Fatal 4 at SummerSlam, Survivor Series with AJ Styles was tremendous. Probably my favorite match of this entire run. But the second half left a lot to be desired. There's some issues with the second half. It was all about Roman. They're teasing him going to the UFC. But overall, as a title reign, man, it was too damn long. There was some stretches you're like, damn, I wish the champion was around, and it's a shame. But on the other side, the first half of the run was pretty damn good when you look at the matches and the stories. I was going to do his second run with this as well, when he faced Finn, lost to Seth Rollins, but it was too damn long. So I decided, no, let's just do this. Alright, my favorite match in this title reign was easily the AJ Styles run, followed by SummerSlam 2017. Then you could go with Samoa Joe at Great Balls of Fire. It's a very long run, and it was kind of hard to watch at the time. So yeah. Alright, what do you guys think of Brock Lesnar's title reign? Please comment down below, and that's it for this video. Make sure you hit the German suplex on the like button, perhaps the F5 and the subscribe button. Peace, I'm out.